Hello and welcome to Nosgoth News Network, where we look into the news and current affairs in the development of the Legacy of Kain series. I'm your host, Basilim. Unfortunately, my erstwhile colleague Raina Aldrin can't be with us today. She's otherwise occupied. Actually, what is it you're doing over there, Raina?
Go away, I'm busy.
Oh. Okay. Whatever it is, it's secretive. We'll have to look out for that in future. You know, when Raina does something, it's going to be interesting. Anyway, it's been a year since we've done one of these, and a lot has been going on in the series since then, in what is potentially one of the most exciting years to be a Legacy of Kain fan for some time. Last time we did one of these, we had just got the announcement that Embracer was about to purchase the series from Square Enix. Since then, that deal has gone through, so now Embracer is the official owners of the Legacy of Kain IP. They took those from Square Enix along with Tomb Raider, Deus Ex and Thief, what you might call the main players of the old Eidos franchises. If you're not familiar with the Embracer Group, they've been quietly buying up huge chunks of the video gaming industry over the last few years and now own a good deal of developers and publishers in the space, with some fantastically well-known names. This puts Legacy of Kain under the same umbrella as Borderlands, Alone in the Dark, Red Faction, Darksiders, Time Splitters, and of course the timeless Goat Simulator. Once the sale was completed, Embracer immediately started to reassign the franchises within its umbrella, and we ended up in an interesting situation where Eidos Montreal was given the keys to Thief and Deus Ex, and Tomb Raider and Legacy of Kain ended up with a familiar name. I think you might have heard of them. They're called Crystal Dynamics. Yes, that is quite a familiar name. What do you think of that game?
We are merely passengers on the wheel of destiny, describing a perfect circle to this point.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. Crystal Dynamics are, of course, the original publishers of Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, who turned developer during the process of developing Blood Omen and went on to develop Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, Soul Reaver 2, Blood Omen 2 and Defiance. They are Legacy of Kain royalty, but for the last few years they've been heavily stuck into Tomb Raider and something called Marvel's Avengers. Not heard of that one. Once Crystal gained control of the franchise, they immediately set about commissioning a survey to gauge public opinion. Usually when they do things of this nature, they expect around 1,000 to 3,000 respondents. Legacy of Kain was a little different. They ended up with over 100,000 people responding to the survey, and over 77,000 people completed it. Quite rightly, they were amazed at the response, and so acknowledged heavily the fandom and what they've done to highlight the series. So thanks to you, everyone who made it known, who spread it, and who got our name in the lights again. It looks very much like Crystal could be paying some attention to the series in the future. That does, of course, depend on what's going on with Embracer. Embracer still holds the rights. They have delegated to Crystal, but Embracer is ultimately responsible, and I don't know if anyone's been keeping up with what Embracer are doing at the moment, but they have had some rocky ups and downs since they started making moves in the industry. They are responsible for Saints Row, which didn't do so well, but then they are responsible for Dead Island, which did do quite well and was quite well received. Dead Island 2, that is. And sounds like they might have some fingers in the pie of the Lord of the Rings at the moment, which means they have got something to do with Gollum. We'll see how that pans out going forward, but if nothing else, it looks like the future is pretty rosy for the franchise, and at least someone in there could be paying attention to the series once again. So best chance of getting something new for a long time. A short while after the Embracer sale was completed, we had a documentary on the history of Crystal Dynamics done by NoClip. it sounds like they struggled a little bit to start with until someone, helped them to find some sources on the legacy of Kain and that section of the series. So they completed that. I highly recommend you look out for that and you find the documentary. It does end on one of the sweetest moments for a Legacy of Kain fan. I won't spoil it for you, but do jump to the end of the video. It's well worth it for a good laugh. In sadder news for the Legacy of Kain community, Earl Boen, who was best known to us as the Seraphan Lord in Blood Omen 2, sadly died at the start of this year. He joins our illustrious dead in the Legacy of Kain community. Those include René, who played Janos Audrin, Paul Lukather, who played Vorodor, and of course the late great Tony J, who played the Elder God. Requiescat in pace. Over the course of the last year, several articles have come up illuminating the progress of Dead Sun. If you're not familiar with it, Legacy of Kain Dead Sun was a cancelled Legacy of Kain game commissioned by Square Enix in 2009 before being cancelled in 2012. Needless to say, it's somewhat controversial in the fandom. I try not to judge as an encyclopedia man, but I'll lay out some of the facts for you in wiki articles and the like, and let you decide. The tagline that we now know, or we had known for a long time about it, was "If HBO made Zelda." That's now been fully stretched out a little bit more to "If HBO made Zelda, but with kinky vampire sex." I'm not sure that was strictly what Legacy of Kain was about. I mean, there was implied kinky vampire sex, but not actual kinky vampire sex. Someone may have got the wrong idea. Anyway, the director of the game has said that he considered that the existing Legacy of Kain lore was too convoluted and thus needed to be erased. This ultimately led to the decision for them to wipe out all the continuity after Soul Reaver 1 and start again. And literally, they took the cut ending from Soul Reaver 1, where Raziel starts off the Silence Cathedral sounding pipes and kills all the vampires in Nosgoth, and they jumped off from there, and saying Soul Reaver 2, Blood Omen 2 and Defiance never existed. So, great. That just ruins all the encyclopedia work I've been doing. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, the idea was that Raziel set off the Silence Cathedral. However, some of the vampires managed to escape into the spectral realm, and they lived there and waited for it to die down, and then they came out and became soul devourers. That's the background of the Saradin vampires in that game. Bit weird, I suppose. We also know that the original title of the game was Savage Messiah, which is interesting. And apparently it was Square Enix that balked at that name. They didn't like the word Messiah and forced them to change it. Not sure if that's a good decision or not. We'll see, or we won't see. A bit more of the backstory of the game has also been drawn out with a saga about the vampire JFK, a big vampire political figure, his concubine, who's known as the Whore Saint, who essentially committed suicide but didn't die, and then their child, who's the vampire child Saul, who ended up kind of being undead from in the womb and then evolving to be a mega vampire and becoming the antagonist of the whole game. Okay. Another part of the backstory had the vampires deliberately backfiring a huge human mega weapon to draw out the Elder God and kill it in a massive explosion. Unfortunately, that didn't go to plan, and the Elder God instead was infused into humans. That's why the descendants of those humans, including Ash again, were able to resurrect the dead, and Asher Gain then used that ability to resurrect the Hoar Saint and the Vampire Child Saul. So, well done. The game also answered the age-old question that every Legacy of Kain fan has had on their lips since the beginning of time. Can water-repellent vampires swim in blood? The details also revealed something of a budgetary mismatch between publisher and developer, with publisher Square Enix expecting to get a big budget, big scale AAA game for the price they'd paid, whereas Climax were expecting to make a much smaller, more modest AA game. The mismatch here might explain a lot of the problems with the game and how Climax continued to felt they were being pushed to do something they couldn't do. That ultimately could explain a lot of the reasons for the game's failure. Of course, after this, Square Enix tried to spin the multiplayer component of this into a separate game called Nosgoth. That game shut down after about 3 years in development, and then Square Enix went quiet on the Legacy of Kain series completely, with only the occasional reference in Tomb Raider keeping us alive. That was until this year, when in 2023, a final Legacy of Kain reference appeared to drop in the Square Enix portfolio. That game was PowerWash Simulator. Things I thoroughly recommend it because it is a very, very nice, relaxing game, but not something you would expect. Well, 2 DLCs for PowerWash Simulator. They have Final Fantasy VII DLC, which takes place in Midgar, and they have a Tomb Raider DLC, which takes place in Lara Croft's mansion. Reading between the lines there, and you can go to the store page and look this up, it gives copyright details for Final Fantasy VII, and it belongs to its respective owners, and Tomb Raider belongs to its respective owners, who, by the time the DLC came out, were Embracer and Crystal Dynamics. But there's a third name that popped up there. Legacy of Kain belongs to its respective owners. Now, I've played through the Tomb Raider DLC on that game. I can tell you, you might be expecting there to be a picture of Kain in Lara's mansion. It's not there. And yet, the little thing at the bottom still is. So, there may be a chance there's more Legacy of Kain to come in PowerWash Simulator at some stage soon. That would be interesting. You have to clean the corruption off the pillars. In other Legacy of Kain gaming news, there have been some new editions of the games, some would say definitive editions of the games coming out this year. First off is Gemini's Soul Fixer for Soul Reaver 2. That generally increases stability and makes the game the most playable it's been in years, solving a lot of technical issues for it. I highly recommend that you play that one. In addition, Gemini also did a version of Blood Omen 2 called Revamped, which does much the same thing for that game. I would say highly recommend that one, but there's also a twist with that one in that Pebble in the Pond has also put out Blood Omen 2 Conceptual Edition, which includes Blood Omen 2 Revamped as part of its programming. So that one has Blood Omen 2 with some extra textures, with some new detail, and a lot of it trying to tie it back to some of Blood Omen 2's cut content and its original conceptual vision. So highly recommend that one. Go out and look for those. Of course, when we're talking about remasters of the series and that sort of thing, there is one that stands head and shoulders above them all at the moment, and I can't believe we hadn't actually put this out when we said this last time, but Rainer Audrin's Soul Reaver 1 HD remaster came out last year to much applause and a great critical reception. Highly recommend that one if you haven't seen it before. 1 year of painstakingly taking every single texture, finding its source, and regenerating everything to the highest standard. It's something that simply hasn't been seen since. It is breathtaking. I would say highly recommend that one. Go out and play that one if you can. It involves you getting a Dreamcast Flycast emulator and a Dreamcast version of the game, but obviously well worth the time, well worth the effort. Along with that, there are a couple of other Soul Reaver 1 projects. Ghostblade is doing a Soul Reaver 1 decompilation, and Hod has Recombobulator. Between them, those could be used to crack open the game completely and remake content, or add new content, or even take some of the old cut content and put it back in. The possibilities for those are endless. Now, speaking of Soul Reaver 1, there is something we have to mention, and it's the long-running saga of Soul Reaver 1 disappearing from digital stores. This is going to take some explaining. So buckle up. When Square Enix first gained control of the series, they immediately looked into commissioning what became Dead Sun and Nosgoth, but something else they did straight away was they looked into getting the games onto digital storefronts. And to do so, they looked at some of the fan patches that were available and bundled those in there. The fan patch for Soul Reaver 1 in particular was what you might call a little bit dodgy. And there has been a long-running saga with it in the years since. A lot of drama about its technical shortfalls, about it potentially having stolen content in there, and many other sort of issues that pop up around it that have gone backwards and forwards on various forums over the years. But the very least of its problems, or the very most of its problems, seems to be that it was illegally using a Bink license. When Square Enix realised the ramifications of that, they immediately pulled the game from stores and commissioned GOG to look into creating a new wrapper to allow the game to run on modern platforms without the needs of such a patch. That went on for some time in the background, and there was even more drama, pulling of the plugs, and everything coming to a head just before the Embracer sale happened. And it looks like the Embracer sale put that to a halt. There was a scurry of activity in behind the scenes at the start of this year, up until around about March, and then the game stopped completely getting updates, and a new message appeared last month saying that rather than just being pulled from stores, the game had been completely delisted at the publisher request. So, if you're familiar with the way game companies work, that could imply there's something good on the horizon. It could imply a lot of things, actually, but let's say it's a very exciting time to be a Legacy of Kain fan. In terms of the wiki work and our Arcane Tomes videos, I've put up several new videos this year. I've gone through Ariel, the Champions of Prophecy, the Hilden, and 4 separate videos on the Vampire Hunters of Nosgoth, covering the various vampire hunting orders, the Seraphan, the Vampire Hunters of Mobius's People's Army, the new Seraphan, and the Vampire Hunters of the Soul Reaver era just dropped a couple of weeks ago. In terms of the wiki itself, I went through a lot of effort to integrate a new feature that came out called Interactive Maps that allows you to put markers and things, including image links and article links and all sorts of different crossovers onto map pages. It's a very, very useful tool. I've gone through there and made sort of maps for most of the games, and I've gone into a lot of detail for Blood Omen 1. So Blood Omen 1, you can literally click to move around the game world and see a lot of cut content note, interesting articles, highlights and all that on there. Well worth a read, well worth a look through. It's all very, very interesting stuff. Personally, something else that has just come back in is slideshows. No one else will understand how much of a deal this is to me, but slideshows now work on the wiki again. You can go into a slideshow, click it, it will blow up into a bigger version of it. You can continue to scroll through the images and then go through into images as you like. That has been broken for some time, but I'm so happy they fixed it. In terms of wiki pages, there has been a lot going on in the background. I've done a lot of articles over the past year, articles on Siegstrom, Natstrom, Natchdome Cove, the Lake of Tears, Stenchen Crow, Vassabund, Korhagen, Korhagen even, Secrets, Blood Fountains, Brides, the Army of the Last Hope, the Demons of Blood Omen 1, and I've got a bunch of enemy articles still in the works. I will still be putting those through in the months to come. I really do hope you enjoy those, and I hope you enjoy the work I put into the wiki. And I think that's about it for now. As I've said, there has never been a more exciting time to be a Legacy of Kain fan. There is a real chance of some new stuff to come in the future, so we look forward to that. But don't get carried away. You know my policy on rumours. Don't get carried away until something drops. Look, as mentioned, there's never been a better time to be a Legacy of Kain fan. There is the whiff of something new in the air, so hopefully we'll be able to do more of these to show up what's going on. I've been Basilim. On behalf of Raina Aldrin and myself, thank you for watching our videos. Thank you for enjoying our content. Please like, share and subscribe and everything like that. And until next time, Vae Victus. Don't laugh when I press record. I am so going to paste that in when it...
No, not.
Raina Aldrin out!